Hi there, welcome to another Kentico video. In this video we will look at Kentico's marketing essentials. We will be looking at Kentico's Xperience product, which is their digital experience platform. My name is Clyde D'Souza. I'm a software developer by profession, and over the past few years I have been working with Kentico applications. Now, who is this for? This Kentico marketing essentials, this video, who is it for? Well, if you are in the marketing team, or if you're a business and you want to hire a marketing team and want to speak the jargon that they are speaking, then this video is for you. So if you're a marketing team, if you're a person working in the marketing team and you're dealing with the Kentico application, then this video is for you, because you really need to know what each of the options, where to find stuff that you might be looking for, and what each of these options mean. And then, of course, if you're a content editor and you have been given additional responsibilities and access that a marketing editor, marketing manager would have, and you need to fulfill those roles, and you need to implement a few marketing essentials, then you might learn a few things from this video as well. Now, this video is not for developers, because we are not going to look at any code. It is just marketing concepts, and how to really implement those concepts in Kentico. But of course, if you're a developer or you're someone who's supporting the content editor or supporting the marketing team, then you might actually want to watch this video, because you might also want to speak the same language, and you might also want to be able to help these two user groups. Now let's look at the big picture, right? So what is involved in Kentico's online marketing tools? What do we have? So I've made this diagram here, and if you can focus on the inner ring, the first ring over here, starting with analytics. So let's start with analytics. So we have I've grouped all the features into these primary features, the first level features. First, starting with analytics, which, as you would imagine, provides us with analytics on the website and analytics about our marketing campaigns. Next up, we have user segmentation, which we can use to create different user personas, different user groups, and then potentially even target content for certain groups. Third up, we have optimizing. So optimizing our marketing campaign, marketing programs, and optimizing our content for users, and so that involves sort of testing multiple variations of content, and only making sure that we keep content that is most successful. Now, successful for what? Successful for the fourth item, which is campaigns and conversions. So we might run campaigns to bring traffic to the website, and we might do this because we want something called as conversions, which is converting public users, people who are not familiar with your product. We want to channel them into our website, and then sort of either have a trickle down effect, which means you might want to get them to purchase something from your website, or you might want them to sign up to your newsletter that you might want to provide. So having some sort of action that has taken place at the end of a pipeline, end of a funnel, and so we might have certain things that we need to look at, which we will cover in that section, campaign and conversion. And finally, we have automation, which we have at the moment only marketing automation. So we'll look at that into a bit more detail, but that's probably the fifth module, once we complete all of the other four. So that's the big picture. And before we move into the first module, let me clarify that the marketing features that we'll be looking at is only available if the application that you're working with has Kentico's EMS license. So if you're not sure, where, if EMS license is applied, feel free to get in touch with your internal IT team, or yeah, if you actually have, or if you actually have access to the online marketing features, that would mean that an EMS license is applied to the site that you are currently working with. So there's a few ways to check, and I think the easiest way is to just have a look at if the features are really available on the Kentico application that you're working with, the ones that we'll look at in this video. So the first group to look at is analytics, and for that, let's go back to the diagram and see what do we have underneath. So under analytics, we have two categories, two components to look at. One is web analytics and the other one is marketing overview. So let's look at web analytics. Now I am logged into the Kentico admin portal. This one is a website that I have running locally, and I'm logged in as Laura Wilson, who is the marketing manager for Dancing Goat website. And being the marketing manager for this website, for Dancing Goat website, she has access to this dashboard that was created for this role, which has a lot of elements, a lot of tiles that are related to online marketing. Now, so I appreciate that you might not have this sort of dashboard set up, and this is totally customizable. You can get someone to pretty much add these styles, or you can add it yourself as well. But look, if it's not available, it's not a biggie. We will be looking at accessing it from the Kentico menu and not clicking one of these styles. So that is just more so they just sort of get a visual of the exact steps that is required. So the first thing to look at is the analytics, which is the web analytics, and to do that, we click on the Kentico menu, and in the online marketing section, we see a bunch of different options. So let me just move myself to the right, and this is much better. So we have a bunch of different things here, and this is exactly what I was saying. So if you can't see these options, you can't see this whole section, then it's possible that you might not have access to this, or this feature might not even be available on the Kentico application that you're looking at. So feel free to speak to someone who manages the site for you. So the web analytics can be found here at the very end, or you can also search in the search box above. For now, we'll just click on web analytics. Now, if you've used other analytics applications, something that's very popular is Google Analytics, and so if you've used that, you might be familiar with a lot of terms, and it is quite intuitive. It is easy to understand, and at the core, what really it is analytics is really data presented to you in various in various forms, which you should be able to sort of read and understand and sort of spot trends, and gather some insights from from the various analytics pages. So at the core is just that, and depending on what analytics application you're using, you might have different dimensions available, different pages and different screens available to give you that information. So on the dashboard itself, we can see that we have a little graph here. We have traffic sources, and we have page views for the last 12 weeks, which is not much really. So the other thing that I must add is that because this is a local website, you might find that some of the pages don't even have data, and the few pages that actually have data is actually very less, and the reason is because there's nobody else using this site. It's really just me using this site for demoing, for creating these videos, and hence the data that's available here for display is very minimum, or might not be there. But hopefully the concepts, I should be able to get the concepts through to you, and you might have more information available on the application that you're supporting. So if you expand each of these sections, so we have various things available here. We have visitors, where you have multiple options available. You have just general visitors as well, which has some data here. You can change these timelines, which will change the timeline here, and of course the graph will get updated accordingly. So you have, I can see there's about 4 returning visitors and 27 regular visitors or new visitors. You have traffic sources, which means you might have links that you have posted on social media or other advertisements, on other platforms, and you might want to track from where you're getting the most traffic. Even though it is direct traffic, then it would just show up in the direct results. But if it's from a search engine like an organic search, or someone is searching for a few keywords, for example, then it would show up somewhere here. And then of course the other referrals and other traffic sources will show up on the left hand side panel. Finally, we have, well, not finally, almost there, but we have content, which gives us some more information, like file downloads, for example. So if you have multiple PDFs or other files that you want people to download, here you can see the analytics of what file has the most number of downloads. You can see what are the top landing pages on your website. So you might have a few other landing pages that you might set up, or you might need to set up for certain campaigns, one-off campaigns, or maybe a more permanent sort of campaigns. But this is where you'll find those information. For banner clicks and banner impressions, so for banner impressions we do have some information, which is great, which we will cover in a later module, as to what alpha Roma and alpha cent is. But hey, the analytics for those components is visible here as well. But don't worry, we'll cover what banners are in just a minute. And finally, we have page views, which tells us, pages, the views for each and every page of our application that has been visited in the past some time. We also have multilingual support. So there's another video that I posted which I talk about multilingual content. And so if you want to compare your site analytics with the other variants, with the other cultures, or with the other languages on the same site, then this is a place to compare as well. So in this case, we have 3 languages set up: English, Spanish, and Hindi. And now finally we have the browser capabilities section, which we have information about the browser type. We have the operating system and a bunch of other things as well, which will be quite useful, if you are gathering some insights, gathering some analytics on your visitors, on what devices they use, and based on that you can make informative decisions while editing the site. The next thing is marketing overview, which we get 2 from the same method, but we just have this option over here, marketing overview. If I click on marketing overview, this is analytics, but mostly from a marketing perspective. So you have something like conversion. So if you have multiple content and or conversion pipelines and journeys that you have set up, then and actions that you have set up, then you would find that information here. You have landing pages, exit pages, and just an overview number of visits. Now this is quite useful, and of course you can add more widgets from this section. which would mean more number of graphs, and you can configure the dimensions accordingly. But this is just something good to know. If things are set up correctly, you would have all the information in the marketing overview, which would only deal with the marketing side of things. This was the analytics section. Next up, we will look at user segmentation. Now, the reason I have given these yellow lines here between these circles is because to me, yes, it is sort of grouping these main categories, but also it's the flow between these categories. So you would start off with analytics. Then once you have gathered some information about your site, you might want to you might want to define your users, and then you might want to run some tests and to gather some more information about the pages. You might want to run some campaigns and conversions based on that, and then of course finally you want to automate a few things to retain users or to engage with users, and then of course it's a feedback cycle. So you come back to analytics and see, after all of the things that you've done, how is what if you compare the analytics, what does the analytics say, what does the numbers say. So it's sort of a feedback loop. You do all of these things, come back, and then do all of these things again. It's not a one sort of size fits all, or you just do one plan once and do it and then just forget it. It's never that. It's really an iterative process. All right, so next up we have user segmentation. Under segmentation we have personas, contacts, and scoring. Now, depending on what your requirements are, you might want to dive deeper or not into any one of these. So what we'll do is I'll just give you an idea or overview of these three sections, and then at the end I will give you some more information on how to find or how to deep dive into any one of these sections if you must. The personas is really about your sort of a group of users that is categorized based on a particular behavior, and this persona is useful for you to make decisions. So you might have a persona that is called coffee lovers, and so this is a group of users who buy a particular brand of coffee very regularly. Or you can have personas based on user actions, which is something like a bunch of users who fill up their carts but do not actually check out. So you have these various options, and let's look at into a bit of detail. Not sure about this particular message. There's a bit of glitch, but we'll get to that in a little while. What I've done is, in another browser, I have a admin. I'm logged in as an administrator, who has access to personas and editing personas. But this appears to just be a glitch, which will come back to that in a moment. But I'm guessing it is usually because of permission issues or access issues. If this does happen, and if you do want access to personas, then you can get in touch with your internal IT staff, and they should be able to give you permissions to access personas. And I have made a video on how to grant permissions as well, so that's something that your internal IT staff will find useful. So for personas, you can create a new persona, but I've already created one, and let's just edit it and have a look at what is available to edit. Now, generally, you want to give a persona a name, potentially an image, and give it a good description if you want to sort of come back to this and sort of get an idea of what this persona actually is for. Now, what's interesting here is rules which you can set. So what rules really does is you can set up a bunch of rules which would allow you to add contacts to this particular persona based on the following rules. So in this case, I have two rules set up. One is when the action is taken when a user visits the partners page. So that's a potential partners group. So I want to include those users into this persona. And the other action is when people subscribe to a newsletter, I want to include those contacts into this persona as well. Now, of course, this is just demo, just demo stuff. Doesn't make sense. But of course, in the real world, you might want to really sit down, do some whiteboarding sessions with key stakeholders and really identify what personas you really need to capture. So you can go into the new rules to calculate to add a new rule, but let's edit a current rule and see what options do we have. So there's a bunch of options here. Most importantly is the rule name, which hopefully should be as descriptive. Hopefully you can make it as descriptive as you can. And then you assign points, which we'll look at scoring a bit later. So you might want to assign some points for each rule. Next up, we have rule type. In this case, it is based on activity, which you might want to use it, or you might end up using it most. And this activity is based on page visits, but of course you can choose from a bunch of different activities that's already available, and based on what you select, you might have, or you might be able to configure a few other things, and you can definitely play around with it and see what effect does a few of these things have on the context being created into the rules. Now, because this is a page visits, the one that you would probably need to configure is the page. So in this case, you just click on the select button, and from the content tree, choose the page that you want to capture this as a page visit. Now, there's another rule type which you might actually end up using quite frequently is the attribute, and you have a bunch of different attributes here. So let's say you want to target your younger audience. So maybe where your date of birth. Do we have date of birth here? Birthday. Yeah, so we have birthday here. So maybe your birthday is less than this particular here, which means you're just targeting that particular audience, or within the year range. So you can use a bunch of these different features to create different rules based on attributes. Macros, this you might want someone else to create this macro for you, and so I'll probably not go into details over here. Finally, we have contacts. So once people satisfy this rule, you might have contacts assigned to this particular persona. At the moment, there are 0 contacts assigned, which is totally acceptable because this is a demo environment. Next up, we have contacts. Let me try contacts from this user. So you have a few options here. You have contact groups, contact management, and my pending contacts. So contact groups is a way to group your users, group your contacts, and so you can create contact groups. You can assign contacts to this group, and you can add accounts to it as well. So now you might want to create groups and contact groups if you are sort of classifying users, like you want to classify your VIP users from your silver membership users versus bronze membership users, for example. So you might want to play around with this if you're planning to do something like that. Contact management is sort of an overview of all the contacts in the system. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of contacts here, quite a few of them anonymous, which they capture based on the page visits, but they have email addresses if Kentico can identify that particular user. So for logged in users, you will have details, the first name and the last name, but for other anonymous users you might not. Now in this particular case, I had subscribed, or I had filled up a form, I believe, and that's how it has captured the email address from here. There's a few bunch of other things, different things that you can configure as well. As we looked at context before, this is something that you can create from here and also assign it to different contexts there. And finally, we have scoring. So scoring is a way for you to assign values, assign sort of points, assign a value to certain elements, certain actions, and then sort of give them different weights, and then based on which value has the highest score, you might want to change your marketing decisions based on that. Now I appreciate that I've not probably given the best of an explanation here on scoring, but what I'll do is I'll certainly leave a link for scoring, in the link of this, in the description of this video. But from a Kentico user's perspective, or marketing editor's perspective, if you want to deal with scoring, this is the place to go. So just like personas, you have a general tab where you can configure your score, each and every score, potentially give a good description so that you know what this is used for. And in the rules, similar to personas, you might want to add new rules, so that you're capturing, so that you're sort of incrementing the score value based on certain actions. So in this case, if a person is subscribed to a newsletter, the score value is 2. But if there's a page visit onto the potential partners page, the score value is 10. Now in this case, there's a few anonymous page visits at the time of making this video. There's a few anonymous actions on the partners page, which means that we have 3 records with each of score 10 recorded in this particular screen. So that's a quick overview of user segmentation. Next up we have optimizing. Under optimizing, we have three sections. We have A/B tests, banners, and MPT. Now all of the three sort of follow the same principle. You want to present different users with different content or different variants of the same content, and see which is most successful. And what I mean by that is, let's say if you have 2 variants of a form, or you have a form which you place it at the bottom of your site, but you want to test it if the form works better if it's placed at the top of the page. So you can have 2 pages like this configured, and you might want to run a few tests so that 50% of your users get a page where the form is at the bottom of the page, and the other 50% of the users get a page where the form is at the very top of the page. Now, depending on how many people actually complete the form, you might want to get some analytics based on that, and decide which style worked better. So if the form that was at the bottom of the page did actually better, then probably you might want to stick with that. Similarly, so that was sort of a simple example for A/B tests. Banners work in the same way. You can have multiple versions of the banners. So it's just has the word banner suggests. It's really just an image that you can add as a widget on your site. and depending on what weight you decide for those banners, the certain images might show more number of times, certain images might not show number of times, and of course then you can add conversions and track how many times each banner was clicked, and depending on which banner wins, you can decide which one to actually keep. MVT is sort of an expanded concept of A/B tests. In this case, you don't actually create two different page variants. You actually use the same page, but in the individual widgets, you might want to present different content. So one page might have one particular paragraph with content XYZ, but another page might have another variant would be the same page but with content ABC. So there's a few different other variables that are involved, but the concept still remains the same. You really want to test it out and see which one works the best. So let's have a look at a few of them. Again, we might not get a chance to go into the deep end, but hopefully this is an essentials video, so you might actually get an idea of what you need to look for. So to look at the first one, which is A/B tests, we will minimize this one. Let's search for A/B tests from this Kentico option here. If you click on that, we can see that there's one test that is currently running, and if you click on the edit icon here, we have an overview which gives us some details on the current A/B test that has been running, and because it has been running, and because there's a few test users that have sort of implemented to test both the variants, we can see that at this stage we have our original and we have a B variant, which is another variant of the same page, and we can see some numbers. So we can see that for one user, for one visitor, we already have one conversion, but for 4 visitors for the B variant, we have 0 conversions. And of course the graph that sort of speaks the same thing. So this is sort of is an overview section which you might want to have a look while you're running the tests, and you might want to finish the test and select a winner, in which case the page that you selected as a winner will be the final one that's been presented. In terms of settings, of course, now most of it is sort of disabled, but when you create a new test, you would have these things that are enabled. And starting with the top, you have obviously the metadata for this particular test. It's just so that you know what this test is for. In this case, we're going to test this particular page. So the Colombia page under the cafe promotions section of the site, that's the original page that we have this content on, and what we want to do is we want to test, we want to add a variant to this particular page. So that's the original page, and we have some conversion and traffics, which is mentioned over here. So the conversion goal over here is to be able to fill this particular form. So if I head over to this page, I can see that there's a form at the very bottom of the page, and there's an other variant which has this particular form at the top of the page, so right over here just above the history. And so the conversion tracking here is basically how many people have filled in this particular form to try a free sample of this coffee. If you click on variants, we see the number of variants over here. We have a B variant which is right under the same Colombia section, just named Colombia B variant. But in terms of what the user sees, the user does not know that a particular page is a variant of the original page. or is the original page itself. So Kentico does that for you, and you don't have to manually enter all of that, or you might have to manage all of that. Now you can also add a new variant, but for that, of course, you would have to have a particular page available. As I said, there's a B variant already created, and in just a second we'll have a look at how to create a new variant. But then once you have like a C variant, the third version of this, and it will be available over here under this section, you want to click it and click on OK to add that particular variant. To add the variant itself, you would head over to Pages, and taking the Colombia thing as an example, I would click on Colombia and right click it, New, and click on AB test page variant. So this would then take you to the add new page sort of workflow, and it would have sort of the similar things that you would use to edit the content. Edit the content as you might find suitable, and then come back here and add a new variant. That was A/B tests. Next up we have banners. So to select banners, you might find it under online marketing. In this case, it is not there. Not to worry. We have this particular user who has access to everything. So let's look at that, for example, for now. And then, of course, if you don't have the right access, you can always get in touch with your internal staff. Under banners, if you click on it, I have already set up one banner here. And this talks about the alpha aroma and alpha scent. Now, of course, this is just demo content, and it doesn't make any sense in terms of the content itself. There's no real life sort of use case for this. But really, what I wanted to show is how it works and how you can actually make use of banners. So let's start with the general section, which usually gives us some metadata about it. In this case, there's no field to type the description, so you want to type the display name as descriptive as possible. In terms of banners itself, so under this banner category, which is alpha, you might want to have multiple banners, which will then get rotated based on the weights specified. So we can always add a new banner, but let's edit the current banner and see what has been configured. So the first banner that we've added is called Alpha Aroma, which when a user clicks, you might want to redirect it to a particular URL, which you can set it here. The weights is a value which you can randomly assign to banners. Depending high the weight, the more number of times that banner will show up to the user. In this case, it was set to 5 and 5, which means both banners get equal weights and therefore equal presence. Then we have visibility, where you can set how long this banner is valid for, how long this banner is live, or you can also make sure that this banner is only clicked X number of times, so that after the number of clicks or after the number of impressions, which means how many people have seen the banner, after that set value, banner won't be visible at all. Here we have a plain image banner. You can also have text and HTML. For image, we've just set as this image, a random image from the Dancing Goat site, and that's all we really need. In terms of where this banner appears, if I just head over to the Dancing Goat website, I can see that I've just added this banner on the home page, so it appears over here. But of course, quite randomly, it might appear differently in different places. So if I would just like to try on this browser, the image is quite different. So don't worry about the resolution, it's just me adding demo images, but as you can see, this image is not the same as the one that we used here. So in terms of how to add this banner to your page, you can head over to pages, and on any particular page that you have access to, you add a new widget, and from the search or search pop-up box you find banner rotator, add the particular widget, and then it will ask you to choose the banner category, which in this case it's not the individual banner itself, but it is the category, and then Kentico will do the rest. So that was banners. Next up we have MVT. Now we won't go into too much details for MVT because it's sort of you get an idea of what we have already spoken about before. I'll definitely leave the links below in the description, which should give you an idea of setting up a detailed guide to setting up an MVT for your site. So we'll go back to this browser and just have a look at MVT. Just to find out what it is. We don't have an MVT test at the moment, but you can definitely set up for a particular page. As I said, we won't go into the details of it, but the same concept applies, and I will leave a link to the guide to setting up MVT tests on your website in the description of this video. It's an official documentation site, official Kentico documentation site that you can use, and for those of you who want to find more help, you can also click on this question mark icon here and then choose one of these links, click one of these links, and have some more information for yourself. After optimizing, we will look at campaigns and conversions. We'll start off with email marketing. So we'll search for email marketing in the same way we search for other applications, and over here we have different email marketing email feeds. We have the newsletter. So if a person has people registered for this newsletter, they are expecting an email in their inbox, and this is probably where you would create those emails. And so currently we have one in the draft section. So we have a nice little email builder. We can add content from here. We can add call to action buttons, and we can also preview this email on devices. We have it on mobile and desktop device. Now once you are ready with all the content, once you're ready with the content for the email marketing, the email that you want to send as part of this campaign, you can either schedule it for future and save the schedule, or you can send it now, which means that all the recipients will get this particular email. Up next we have campaigns. So we'll select campaigns from the same application list, and we see that there's one campaign that's already running, which has met 10% of our set objective. So let's click on it to view what do we have here. So let's start from the top. We have properties, which is where when you create a new campaign, which is where you would start off with displaying adding a campaign name and potentially useful description, and then you would set a UTM value here. Now this UTM value along with the UTM source and UTM medium would show up in different places, and you might already be familiar with this term itself. So this is a value that you want to give some attention to. Now we have multiple options here, so let's look at different sections. We start off with campaign content inventory, which is basically the content that will be shown to users when we publish this campaign. Now If you have an existing page that you want to include in this particular campaign, that's totally fine. But you might want to have a landing page that you want to create that must be published only when this campaign goes live. So that's something that you can create from here. What you can also do is click on URL builders and URL builder and get a link that you want to share on other platforms. So let's say if you want to type this as Facebook, medium is you're sharing, you're going to be posting this on social media, and the content is banner. Let's just use this as example. So this is a quick tool provided by Kentico to generate your page link that you can share it with other people on other platforms, and clicking on this will set these UTM campaign, source and medium values and content values to the ones that you've just set here. Now this does not get saved, so this is more of just a useful one-off tool that you can use from this section. Next up we have campaign promotions, which is that same UTM value or link that you want to add to the newsletters, to the emails that you sent. Now in this case we have selected an existing email, which is a Coffee 101 lesson number 1, and we have given this a UTM source of coffee and a whole bunch of other character strings. Clicking on edit opens up the email under the email marketing section. This is something that we've seen just a few minutes ago, but what is interesting is this call to action button, which if we look at the URL already has these values. Starts off with the source, which is something that we just created here. It has the campaign, which is the alpha camp that we set over here, and the UTM medium, which is set to email because this is email marketing. So that's something useful. What Kentico does is it automatically, for the emails that you add in this section, it automatically adds the UTM source and other UTM information to all call to action buttons and links. The next up we have campaign reports, which we can set up conversions and campaign journeys. Conversions is just the actions that you want to track. So let's say if you want, of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is sort of a demo example, doesn't really make sense in the real world, but let's say you want to track page visits from about, and then the next step would be accessories, and of course you can add more conversion steps, and so this is the place where you would actually want to do it, and of course this report is only for only 4 pages they want to track as part of this campaign. So you might want to add that landing page as the first step to this conversion section. We also have conversion journeys, which is a sequence of events and which can be represented like a funnel. And so what you want to do is the ideal aim for campaign journeys is the objectives is really to have as many number of people completing the entire funnel. So if your funnel starts from 100 people, you might want, if like we have here at the very bottom, we have campaign objectives. In this case it's set to 10, but that's of course just the page visits, but of course you can have the page visits set to the last page here in your campaign journey, and you might want to set it to a value. So what you really want to do is, let's say in this case, let's take an example of 10. So from 100 users who visit the about page, the last step, which in this case is just the contact us page, but the last step in the funnel, you want 10 users. That is the target that you want to achieve, and so that is something that you can use for an e-commerce site, for example. So user visits the the product page and adds certain items to the cart, and then checks it out, and then completes all the steps required, finally to the payment page, and then finally to the payment confirmation page or a thank you page. So that's one example of a funnel or of a camping journey that you want to track. Similar to the email marketing, we have schedule, which is something that you can do it for future, for example. So you can create a campaign and schedule it to go live in the future, or of course you can go live now. In this case, there's a finish now button because the campaign is already running. And finally, coming back to reports, we have page visits. We have some analytics here, so we can see that our about page has been visited 1 time out of the 10, so that's 10% done. We have the channel for visiting the about us page was the email newsletter that we sent out. So somebody would have clicked the button, which then triggered this particular process. And so camping journey just gives us the information for the camping journey that we have set up. So in this case, the drop was a -1, or drop rate was 0%. So nice little handy information that you might want to view, and you might want to play around with on your site. Like I've said in some other videos, if you're not sure with anything, please do it in a dev environment or in a test environment, or in a staging environment before doing it in your live or production environment. Up next in the campaign and conversion is conversions itself. So if we look at conversions, which is right over here, we see that there's an overview which tells us the coffee sample order that a person has filled up and has gotten a value of 10. We have detailed information here, which is, let's edit it and have a look. So so this is conversions for coffee sample order. Once it loads, we'll have some information on the conversion itself. So the video description, so the conversion description says that the visitors ordered a coffee sample from the landing page. Now the landing page was the Colombia coffee one, if you recall, that we looked at a few minutes earlier, and the details is just the number of conversions, number of people who have ordered, who have submitted their form to order a coffee. We have given it a value of 10. So this is in this screen there's really nothing to edit. This is more of a viewing screen only, but of course you can add new conversions if you're looking to add new ones. Finally, the fifth module is automation. Under automation, we have just one element, which is the marketing automation element. Now this is a bit of an interesting one. In the marketing automation, you can set up processes, and what this really does is it really allows you to create workflows. So let's look at this first example. What it says is that the process name is abandoned shopping cart. Now what this allows us to do is it allows us to design a workflow, which means there's a trigger that initiates this workflow, that starts this workflow. You can add a few steps. In this case, the step is to send an email with this particular information. So in this case is a coffee reminder. So in this case, what the example is saying is that the user has added an item to the cart but has not really completed it, and so we want to send those users an email, and this is a way to just give some information and then finally finish. So this is a simple one-step workflow. but you might want to add multiple steps in it. There's a few bunch of options that's available, and you can always search from here and add those steps as well. Now don't worry about this video being not as much as details, because it is really the essentials, and I just wanted to sort of convey the concepts at a very high level, and I'll leave some links in the description of this video. For those who are interested, can check out the details and the step-by-step process to set up a few things, and then you can take it from there. The triggers for this is when the shopping cart is marked as abandoned, and there's a few options here available, and just like the ones that we've seen earlier for rules that we set up for personas and the other element, we have certain options available. So in this case, you have an activity, and the activity type is shopping cart abandoned. There's a few other activities as well, just in case if you're looking for different types of triggers. And then of course that trigger will initiate a few steps, and then you can design your steps as much as you like. This information is currently empty because there's nothing being processed at the moment on my demo site, but assuming that if your site already has some marketing automation processes set up, then you might have more information on your real life website. That's it in the marketing automation section. As I mentioned, this is an iterative process, so you might want to, after all of this and after all of the campaigns go live, all of your optimization settings go live, you might want to then check your analytics for a different time period and see if the things that you have done in the past, has it improved the conversion rate on your website, on certain elements in your website. Maybe your sales has increased, maybe your downloads have increased, whatever you're looking for, and then follow the same process again. You have analytics, user segmentation, optimize your site again once more. Maybe you want to do a few other changes, come back to campaigns and conversions to then launch a new campaign, and track your conversions, send those few emails, and then of course make sure that you have a few automation processes set up, so that now your users are more engaged. You can send a few bunch of more other emails, and then of course come back to analytics and see if round 2 has made any other difference. So that was those 5 modules. Now if you want to find more information, you can head over to the to Kentico's official documentation page. Now don't worry about copying the links from this video. I will actually post it in the description. You have this section here, manage your online marketing features. In this you have everything that we spoke about in details, and so under different sections, let me move myself to the right once again, up here. Yeah, so all of the information that you'll need is in this documentation page, with some examples as well. So if I click on campaigns, it's quite detailed steps, so you might want to have a look at it and follow the steps based on your requirements. So this is the documentation page, that is a go-to place if you need more Kentico information. Once again, we are looking at the Xperience product from Kentico. We are using Kentico version 12, and I was using the Portal Engine format. So there's these 2 options here, MVC and Portal Engine. I was using the Portal Engine website to demonstrate, but if your site is using MVC, then the look and feel might be a bit different. Few options might be in and out, but you can ask your internal IT staff to confirm that for you. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to post it in the comments below of this video, and I will get to answering as many questions as I can. And finally, please consider subscribing to this channel so that you're notified, or you see these videos on your YouTube feed or your video feed, and you can watch more of these videos. If you do like the content of this video, give it a thumbs up so that I know you liked it. And feel free to share this video with your friends and family, or with your network, and so that they might learn something new as well. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, and until then, take care, stay safe. Bye bye.